That's true. And I did just press record. And you guys know Joanna and Rosie here from staff, but I would like to give a shout out to Nat Blackford, waving there to all of you. Nat, would you like to introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and how you've landed in our Zoom meeting this afternoon?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So nice to meet you all. My name is Nat Blackford, and I'm the Main Street Fellow at the Downtown Center, the AmeriCorps Fellow. So I'm really excited to kind of work on the different MDC projects related to pandemic response and recovery, some work to do with the members area, and then also, the second half of this year, getting out to some communities in Maine to help implement some projects on the ground or plan some projects on the ground. I'm from Maine. I live in Edgecombe right now, and my background is kind of in kind of GIS, anthropology, energy efficiency, and kind of a number of different things. So I'm really excited to be here, and yeah, thanks.
Right. Thanks for joining us. So Nat is, as a reminder, one of 5 Main Street Fellows, and he's the one that's on our team, and we are so lucky to have him. Does anybody want to ask him questions? Just because you can, and he's here, feel free to just wave or take yourself off mute. Jane?
Yes, I know I listened to Nat the other day, but question, you said your third agenda item or the last part of your service as AmeriCorps volunteer with MDC is to get out and work on community projects. How are they going to get funneled to you?
Oh, so exciting.
How are you going to do
it? We're actually working on setting up that process right now. What it looks like it's going to be is an RFP that we'll send out to the different main streets and affiliate communities sometime maybe around the end of December, and then hopefully have a chance to work with the different people who submit a response to kind of workshop a project. And then we'll have a pool that we can pick projects from. But we're hoping it'll be a pretty collaborative RFP process so that we can kind of find projects that seem achievable within the time frame and kind of meet some criteria, and then also have kind of an explicit focus on kind of building resilience in the communities and kind of advancing goals surrounding equity. So we're still figuring out the details of the process, but it looks
okay, sounds good, right?
Yeah.
And Nat, didn't we brainstorm for some ideas of maybe what a project would be, like between 2 and 6 weeks, Jane, in a community or virtually in a community? You want to throw out some of those ideas, Nat?
Yeah, so we've kind of as part of kind of looking at what communities have been doing in terms of responding to the pandemic, we've kind of come up with just some ideas that do seem to meet the goals. So there was a project in Bath that was a hashtag contest that really seemed to build social resilience in the city and kind of bring people together.
It was hashtag for the love of Bath.
For the love of Bath, exactly. And kind of brought people downtown, kind of connected the Main Street organization with some new partners in the community, strengthens existing connections, brought in new volunteers, brought people downtown, and kind of reminded everyone of why they love their town. So it was also kind of a placemaking exercise. And so we're looking at some different projects, that have done similar things around the state. There have been some surrounding gift card programs. There have been, lots of examples, and we're kind of hopefully have a few examples written up as case studies to include as part of the RFP, so people can kind of see the types of projects that we think might work best.
Great, thanks, Nat. Yeah. But the projects will be from the local community. And it'll be in a community that doesn't have a fellow, like Zach could apply. Norway could apply if they had a project for 2 to 6 weeks. So all sorts of ways to share Nat and share a fellow. Thanks, Nat.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, any questions on the agenda? Or are we ready to dive into that? Sounds good. Okay, thanks. So let's see. I'm gonna leave that one there. Okay, the annual awards coffee has a new date because we had put it on Inauguration Day, and that didn't seem right. So we moved it swiftly to January 28th, a virtual event from 8:30 to 10. And we are excited about it. We have an amazing keynote speaker. I have to find my little note about Stacy. She is the director of the national organization called the Institute for Local Reliance, or is it Local Self-Reliance? Local Self-Reliance, sorry, ILSR, apologies. And Stacy Mitchell, oddly, lives in Portland, Maine.
On Munjoy Hill, and is a supporter of the historic district.
Yay! We love that, Sarah. So she's amazing, and I have watched 2 of her presentations online, and she believes in the power of local and independent businesses more than anybody I have ever heard, and she has all the data to back it up. So we're so excited she agreed to do this for us. So we are going to have an awesome keynote speaker, which was one of my goals for the event. We are going to have 3 awards. The awards nominations are due this Friday from any of our affiliate or Main Street communities. And the 3 awards are the Downtown Hero, the Downtown Project, and a new and special one, the Downtown Innovation, based on what we have been living with in 2020. So we are excited about those 3 awards. And then we are going to have our AmeriCorps Fellows play a role, all 5 of them, in our event. And then we will have a brief Maine Downtown Center update of some sort. That part's TBD. But it's going to be really fun. We're going to have a gift for everybody that registers, or the first 100 people that register are going to be mailed something special. Joanna, what am I missing on our event planning? Anything? Okay. So anyway, it's going to be really fun, and we're excited to be doing it. We're sorry that it's virtual, but it's going to be good. And it's going to be 90 minutes. It's going to be a big power punch 90 minutes.
Right.
Jane.
Just wanted to say, we've worked with Stacy in the past. She's come to Bath, and she and Bill were on the national Main Street agenda in Baltimore one year because they both got a national award. So she really is delightful and engaging, right?
That is so great to hear. I did not know that connection. Cool,
Right.
Bill.
So
That's great. And we love that she supports historic districts on Munjoy Hill. So that's good for Sarah. So thank you. Let's see, awards nomination and selection. As I said, the nominations are due Friday. Our awards team that's going to review the nominations and make a decision are Jane Palmer, Abby Levin, Haley, and Mac Collins. And I will be there too. So they have agreed, all agreed. Terry Ann had done it in the past. And maybe Greg was on the last time we did it. Anyway, so we have a team to review our nominations, which we're excited about. Joanna, I was wondering if you would give the Advisory Council an update on the community engagement project and communities. I think they would love to hear about it. I don't think they know anything about it, actually, or it's a reminder from long ago.
Yeah, I think I have given a couple of updates to this
Okay.
group. This is a project funded by the Sewell Foundation for us to do some capacity building facilitator training and coaching around community conversations around difficult topics. It was originally conceived to be leading up to 3 in-person community conversations. So for that reason, the project timeline has been extended, and there were several months where we were waiting to see when in-person meetings of that type and size would be safe again, and then sort of realizing that it would probably behoove everyone to think about how to have those kinds of conversations virtually. So we were able to have, we did some additional facilitator training, building on training they had received in December of last year and early this year, with some community leaders in Hallowell, and then a community conversation the last week of October. There were close to 50 folks attending and participating in the virtual format. We had breakout groups with the trained facilitators leading conversations in each. They used virtual flip charts, which were essentially Google Docs, kind of pre-filled and prepared for them, which then the local organizers had access, obviously, to all those meeting notes right away. So, you know, overall, it felt like it was a good experience. The local partners were very pleased, and they are working on a meeting summary now, and it will feed into their heart and soul process, as well as updates to their comprehensive plan that they are undergoing with some help from Jeff Levine. So that project is wrapping up in Hallowell, and we've been planning a project in Rockland, and we were planning a project in the Bethel region as well. And for various reasons, it's looking like that one probably won't be practical to deliver. So we're talking about what other resource might be available for potentially a third community, or some additional facilitator training for Hallowell and Rockland. Any questions about that project?
And I will say, I got to participate as one of the facilitators of one of the Hallowell breakout rooms, and it was awesome. It was a great virtual meeting that was really exciting to see. They had a music break. I mean, it was just really well done, and I think the community felt really good about it as well. So Joanna's doing a great job working with Vision Hallowell, which is one of our affiliates. So thank you, Joanna, for that update. And welcome, Mac. And somebody else is trying to come in. Hold on, please. Oh, it's yellow. Great. Okay. So hi, Yellow, and hi, Mac. Rosie, I know you're, how many of you have heard of the Working Communities Challenge program that is coming to Maine? People have heard about it a little bit. Some of you may be working on it more deeply than others. I thought it would be helpful just for Rosie to give like a quick overview of what it is, and just kind of what MDF is doing at the moment in relation to this work. Rosie, turn it over to you.
Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay, great, because I couldn't talk earlier. I was having some speaking challenges over this thing, so I just wanted to make sure. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you all. I apologize for not being on video. My kids are home today, both remote learning, and so I'm hoping I can stay stable enough to speak to you. If you have a problem, let me know, and I can always write up something and send it. So the Working Communities Challenge is a program of the Federal Reserve of the Bank of Boston, and it's really looking to assist rural communities and coming together and working collaboratively toward really big, ambitious goals. So what they're going to be doing is they're going to be giving a design grant of $25,000 to 8 winners, and that's a 6-month grant. And then those 8 winners will be able to then apply for a $375,000 3-year grant, an implementation grant, and they will be selecting 5 winners out of the 8. You know, they need to address economic growth. They need, the projects need to reduce inequity. There is a letter of interest that is actually due. It's a low bar letter of interest. It's pretty simple, but you do need to have what they call the community leadership table, in which is basically your core group that is putting this together, with the understanding that and you have 50 words to describe your initiative. So again, low bar. So you have to be pretty succinct there, with the idea that once they get all of those applications, they're going to look at it and do a little matchmaking, where if there's similar projects happening in similar areas, they're going to try to pull people together to continue that collaborative reach and effort. So there'll be a little bit of that happens in between. So right now, MDF is, we've listened into all of the regional meetings that they've had. They do have another final question and answer coming up on Friday, and I do believe that was sent out in an email or a blurb, I believe, and maybe. So that is coming up for people to attend. So what they're basically saying is get your groups together now. There is a list of priority communities that have been identified. There is a minimum of 6,000 population, and they're not looking typically for one application from one single community. They're really hoping communities band together. So as long as one of the communities is a priority community on the list, they can actually reach out to other communities to come in with them, even if they're not on the list. And we also know that the communities do not have to be contiguous. So that's a good point. And that helps in some of the thematic work that gets done in some of the regions. So I know that's a little bit of everything. If there's any questions, there is a website, I think that might have been sent out as well, if there's people that are interested. MDF will be sending out a email to several folks, several groups of our communities, to some of our stakeholders, talking about what our role is and how we can be of assistance or help to bring people together around different projects.
Great. It has, the Working Communities Challenge has already happened in or is underway in Massachusetts and Vermont. So the Boston Fed has made these kind of investments and is gathering case studies throughout New England. So it's nice that this is coming to Maine. And any questions or other comments? I know some of you are, Christina's working on a project. Bill, yes?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Questions.
Yes.
I went on the website. They suggested you look to get more information. It said this page was shut down, so I never got anything out of it.
Oh.
My question is, reading through everything, I would really like to see an example of what they're looking for in terms of projects. I think it would be very helpful, and you would get more people to apply if they knew what kind of projects they were going to accept.
Sure. So at the regional meetings, Bill?
Otherwise, I don't see a lot of people applying for this.
Okay. Well, at the regional meetings, at least the regional meeting I attended, which was for Kennebec County, they gave us 2 project examples. One was Fitchburg, Massachusetts, and one was Barre, Vermont. And the Barre, Vermont was actually focused on, believe it or not, primarily young, pregnant, single women, like as young as 15 years old. So it was a big kind of societal issue, and they were addressing the issue through education, workforce, housing, and I'm sure I'm forgetting other components. And Christina, you heard the Fitchburg example too. Do you want to just give a quick summary of that, since you said you might be looking at a similar model? The Fitchburg case study was in Massachusetts.
Yeah, and I just actually sent the link, so it probably will give you more information than my brief overview. But basically, they and I'll just pull it up here so I don't get it wrong. They are focused on a strategy that is on neighborhood development, economic development, and community engagement, concentrating more on place. Revitalizing the downtown through economic development strategies, and a pipeline of project aimed at sparking additional growth.
Thank you for the summary. All of a sudden I went, I forget what Fitchburg is about. So it's of course in our wheelhouse, and I remembered the other one. So thank you. So Bill, they did give examples, and I put in the chat, Bill, above Christina's, the actual link to the Boston Fed, and it is working because I just clicked into it. So maybe it was just down at the moment you checked. Other questions or comments on this?
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a big effort for sure, and takes a lot of connecting the dots and figuring out what is the right size or topic project. Great. Okay. Entrepreneur pilot projects. I'm just going to give you a quick update because we're at a good place in that program. As you remember, 3 communities were selected to be entrepreneur pilot projects. They were Skowhegan, Monson, and Lisbon. Lisbon being an affiliate, Skowhegan a Main Street, and Monson out of our program. This is a program Maine Community Foundation is funding, and we have had Matt Wagner, who's the vice president of the National Main Street Center and an entrepreneur content expert, with us for many months, meeting with the local teams of entrepreneurs, local teams of providers. It's been a really incredible process. I will let Christina comment since she's lived it as well. But from my perspective, I've attended at least 8 meetings in each of those 3 communities, and it's been amazing. It exceeded my expectations, and Matt is now to the point of he has gathered lots of information and done numerous surveys with the local communities and conversations, and he's now writing the reports. And Christina just got her draft report on Sunday, and we're anticipating Monson and Lisbon getting their reports the first week in December. And then Matt will be coming back to the communities to talk about the implementation, which MDF has the funding for. We have, from Maine Community Foundation, we have $50,000 for each community to actually implement some of the work. And Matt has said that we are so lucky here in Maine to have Maine Community Foundation investing in this way. He has done this work in, I think, 3 or 4 other states. And he said, this is always the problem. There's nothing for implementation. So he has really impressed upon us what a gift this is from Maine Community Foundation. So I think at a certain point, and maybe we will plan to do it in January, we will kind of give a summary of what the findings are. It's been amazing to me in Skowhegan in particular. I'll just share how the entrepreneurs have this organic relationship that's not this highly structured, like we are the entrepreneur group. It's like one entrepreneur is like, yeah, you can use my space. I'll share my like bread machine with you. Like, it's just crazy how they work organically together. And I feel like that's something when you think about ecosystem building that you just really need to honor. You can't just go in and put a structure over on the local community. The findings in Lisbon has been kind of a different finding, which is Lisbon has all these entrepreneurs, but they don't know each other and they don't have any connection to the resources surrounding them. And there are resources everywhere, from Top Gun programs to trainings with like the Bath Chamber to, you know, all sorts of pieces of the ecosystem are right there for Lisbon, but yet they have no idea they're there and they're not taking advantage of them. So what we've realized in Lisbon is it's communication, it's education that is like the missing link in their ecosystem. And Monson is a case study in and of itself. They were selected because they are like 700 people year round or something. They are so small, but they are unbelievably smart and savvy and engaged, and it's a small group, but they have Monson Arts, which has been funded by the Libra Foundation, and that's brought a whole new mix to it because Libra has a very hands-off approach. They have like invested and it's going, whereas this process we've been taking them through is way more hands-on. So each one of these case studies is resulting in this kind of modeling, and whether it's all mushed into one model or we have a couple different models that are going to come out of it, it's just been really exciting work that I've been getting to work on the last 6 months. So any questions? And then I'll let Christina share a couple things from on the ground since she's been living it. And I should say that from your office, Terry Ann, we've been working with Martha Bentley as well.
Okay. Have you, in Lisbon, have you pulled in, I think it's Brett Richardson at the town?
He's the lead and he's wonderful. Okay. So Brett Richardson used to be at CEI and he's now the EDD in Lisbon. He's a breath of fresh air, Terry Ann. The community loves him. We love him. He's really great. And Sarah knows him because they both live in Westbrook, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he lives one street over from us. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's great. Christina, anything you want to share about your experience being one of the pilot projects?
Well, I agree that the bringing together the entrepreneur focus group is really cool and inspiring. And I think that it made a lot of them, the focus group itself kind of helped spur some connections too. So that was really neat. And then part of the process for assessing the ecosystem was to bring together all of our regional economic development entities. And so in Skowhegan, our local entities talk pretty regularly, but we don't actually do a lot of work with CEI Women's Business Center, which is based out of Farmington. There is also SBDC that we don't do a lot of work directly with. And so bringing them into the fold and kind of incorporating them into the work that we're doing has, I think, kind of helped augment the things that we're able to offer our entrepreneurs as well. So I think that was a good piece of the puzzle that was kind of missing. And I actually just received an email from one of those contacts that was kind of an email today from them. And otherwise, I don't know if I would have been on her radar. So those are some good things that have come out of it as well. And I haven't dug too deeply into the report from Matt, but I did share it with my board of directors on Monday, and there were 10 recommended areas of focus. And I know that one of the things that I've been talking with Anne quite a bit is related to housing and our second floors in our downtown. And I know this is a conundrum for so many communities in Maine. And so I'm hoping that we're going to be able to address this. And having the National Main Street Center recommending that we look at this kind of provides Skowhegan some clout, when otherwise it would just be me over here waving my flag, which is like, standard for the work that we do. So yeah, so it's been great.
That's great. Thanks for that. I'm going to skip over the AmeriCorps because Adam's running late, and I'm going to turn off my video.
And Jim Robbins had his hand up. Did you see that?
Oh, I didn't. Jim Robbins, please.
Nope, not me.
Oh, sorry. That was Ken. Right.
Ken, hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
No, that was just a random gesture.
Okay. If anybody wants something, I'm going to turn my video off because my remote learner is pulling on my internet right now. Okay. So I thought we could talk about the affiliate program a little bit. Yellow, I hope you'll engage in this conversation as well. Glad that you're here to join. And Jane, I couldn't find the report. I know right where it is in the Hollowell office, but I couldn't find an electronic version of that report. But I'm just gonna frame up this conversation and then hand it over to Jane a little bit. Most of you know, the affiliate program, formerly the network program, is like an ongoing topic of conversation. You know, the communities that, I don't know, thrive in this area, or those that pay their dues, but we really can't get them to answer the phone, kind of thing. And what do we do with these bodies of 15 communities? And as a sidebar, I've had 4 community inquiries and presentations about new communities in the last month. So there's that. And what do we have the capacity to handle with our affiliate program? And every time we talk about this topic, sometimes it feels like the group is too big to figure out how to move the conversation forward, or it's just me in my head and that doesn't get us anywhere. So Abby and Jane and I met, I don't know, a week or 10 days ago to focus on the affiliates and just like start diving in and analyzing past research and just trying to figure out, I don't know, whether it's a new path forward or a different way of working with these communities, which, you know, I care about, like they're my 15 children. So Jane pulled out the Pat Hart report that was done in, I think it was 2015, Jane?
Started in 2014 and went through, I think, to 2016. But
16, okay, yep. And she did want me to put up on the screen, which I am failing at, the 6 bullets of the affiliate program, which you are welcome to read or highlight, Jane, but I hope you will join me in this conversation about how we're gonna work through the affiliate program and what is it gonna be. What would you like to share, Jane? I hope not. Maybe. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So Jane, would you like to share what you're thinking about in relation to the affiliate program and our body of work that we've been digging into with Abby?
Okay, I will share at least what I've been feeling and what we talked about in our telephone conversation, the 3 of us. First off, it feels like we spend a lot of time discussing the affiliate programs in each of our advisory council meetings. We come up with different ideas of what might work, like the mentor system, like the call in from the office. However, our success rate continues to be pretty dismal. And so I continue to think about what can we do? We put a lot of energy into this. And Pat Hart's report I found very helpful. So I hope that when it surfaces in the office, it can get out to us all. But she had some clear recommendations, 6 of them, that we should follow. Otherwise, her predictions were very dire. The program would not survive, and MDF could not afford to keep it going. It takes a lot of staff time and sends out a lot of resources to these communities. So part of her recommendations were quite simple and things we've thought about but haven't really enforced, such as she says we have to set clear expectations for the affiliate/network communities and follow through on their attaining those expectations. We've tried off and on, but I'm not sure we've ever followed through. And I would like people to interrupt if you disagree or you want to add something. Her second recommendation was to create a way for the network communities to be divided into 3 tiers. We've talked about that too. Those who are making no progress, those who are sort of fumbling along, those we thought were close to becoming a Main Street program. But we have not really ever achieved. I think Westbrook perhaps was one that became a Main Street program, but I don't think we've achieved that with any others. And then her third recommendation was, well, actually under setting goals, she said we really need to develop a self-assessment tool for the network communities. And I don't think we've done that.
No, that is definitely one we haven't done. Okay, am I frozen or Jane is frozen?
Sorry, what?
We have not done that one, Jane.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I firmly believe if the community isn't invested in evaluating themselves, they're not going to listen much to what people from the outside say they need to do. The other was that we need to think about how we allocate resources to the tiers. Do we give them equal time? Do we, change how we relate to the communities? How do we use the advisory council to help with that workload? And then I think there was, we do a good job, I think, of putting out their resources. And so they have connections to lots of learning opportunities. But then what else can we think about? And she talked about designing a leadership educational session for these communities so they can develop in their community leadership, because we know that's one thing that is drastically lacking in our affiliates. And I think, haven't we been talking about doing some kind of leadership training at the Main Street level?
Yes, I think it's an ongoing conversation, and we
Right.
specifically have a community cohort training program available to one of our Main Street or affiliate communities coming up. And I certainly think the community engagement work that Joanna's been doing is absolutely falling in the bucket of leadership training. But yeah, not a formal program for the affiliates, Jane, but yes.
But I think the bottom line is our statistics and our rate of success versus failure is not where it needs to be, and it doesn't equal the amount of energy that we put into this program.
Okay.
So the other question was that she recommended, does MDF need to find a way to raise money to support the affiliate program? And I certainly wasn't going to get into that, but that was one of her questions.
Okay, great.
So that's what we talked about. Is that right, Ann?
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate you sharing the HEART report, and I will find the electronic version to share with you all. I just haven't been able to find it yet, or I'll drive to Hollowell and get the hard copy. It was a number of years ago. So I appreciate that. And Yellow, feel free to take yourself off mute, because I know you have thought long and hard about affiliates too, and how we navigate this program.
Well, less long and hard than most people on this group. So I'm still in listening mode for the moment, but I'm happy to share thoughts at some point along the way.
Okay. Other questions or comments on affiliates, or kind of how we're, yes, Scott.
Yeah, so, and I caveat that I might have to go here shortly.
Yeah.
Although I don't think I'm going to be needed for about a half an hour, but I just have to keep an eye on things. So I think the points that Jane just made are great. And I think a couple of things. One, I think we need a clearly defined purpose for what these network communities are. and I don't think it's a single thing, because I think for some people or some communities, it might be being a stepping stone to becoming a full Main Street. And for communities like Norway, it's an end in of itself. So I think it needs to be a little bit flexible with what the purpose of a network community is. I think the setting of goals and enforcing them is great idea. Again, the difficulty is we're dealing with very different communities often. And so I think to some extent that the communities need to develop the goals themselves at the beginning of the process. And then maybe we need to hold them accountable to those goals. So it makes them at least think about why they're becoming a network community, what they hope to get out of it, and then we can hold them accountable. And if they can't attain those goals, then maybe it's time for them to think about doing something else to some extent. I don't know what the result would be, but it just seems to me that, again, you can't just set arbitrary goals that are going to fit all 15 communities or the 4 communities that want to come in or something, because the goals aren't all going to be the same for everyone in each community.
I like that.
So I just think it's a setting hopefully if we can really set clear expectations and goals at the beginning of the process, then maybe we can more clearly sort of help shepherd them through, and there'll be a more clear endpoint at some point if it's not working out, as opposed to just continuously trying to help, and wasting a lot of your time going nowhere and other people's time.
I think we could do a way better job of setting goals and expectations and getting the community to set them themselves, as you said.
Right, because that gives them a buy-in as well. If they're, we can help
absolutely.
them to think about what it is they're going to get out of it, but ultimately it needs to be their goals, and then they need to be held accountable to reaching.
Sarah, can I call on you? Do you have any reflections on Washington State and how you dealt with these special communities that you'd like to share?
Not really. I mean, the thing is, like, this, every Main Street program I've ever worked with, this is the same exact problem. There's no standardized way that people are engaging with affiliates. And it's really hard to try and balance service delivery and affiliate expectations if they're not accredited, and it's not easy. And I think that I'm really interested to read that report because we didn't have a great deal of luck either. In a lot of states it ends up being just a list of communities, and which is not helpful for anyone. But I think Scott's points about that helping them with setting goals and expectations is going to be really key to that. But it's something that we are not alone in our struggles for this to deal with this. So, but I'd really like to read that report, and maybe
we will get it to you.
Maybe all of us will have an epiphany.
Well, I appreciate knowing that we aren't alone.
It's nice, right?
Other questions or comments on this body of work? It's not a simple fix.
So I'm going to make another comment. I mean, she says, I agree. It's nice to hear what Sarah had to say in terms of that we aren't alone. To some extent, I would think it's helpful. I mean, when you're going out and looking for grants, the more communities we have listed, even if they aren't necessarily active, there is some probably advantage to us as an organization, right? I mean, just being practical, if we show that there are 50 affiliate communities in Maine, that shows that we're in 50 communities. Whether all 50 are active or not, it still looks better for us to have 50 versus 5, I would think. Not that we want to just go out and randomly get communities just so our list looks good. But there is some advantage to having more rather than less, I would think. So.
Yeah.
I think
one of the things that troubles me is we get fired by our affiliates. I don't like being fired. You know, we ought to be in the driver's seat rather than be the one that they say it's not worth it to us to belong. I also think there may be value in analyzing an affiliate or two or three that seems to be comfortable and doing well, like Norway. And what are the elements that makes that work there, but not up in Castine or Camden? And so comparing the successes, whatever they are, and the failures may be helpful to us, right?
That's a good idea, Jane. I have a set of slides that I developed, I don't know, a couple years ago, and it's highlighting specific affiliates and why they're successful. Because everybody asks that when they say, I'm interested in being an affiliate, come to our town. And they're like, well, why is anybody successful? And I did that again, not through any sort of formal process, but through my head. But it is really interesting to reflect on. Some of the things you can move the needle on, but some of them are just there. So Scott, Norway is one of the communities that's like in my little slide presentation. One of the things that Norway has, which Greg and Sarah will appreciate, is a strong preservation ethic. They care about their buildings downtown. They care about the McLaughlin Gardens, like the Opera House. And like we can preach that, but that probably originally started with Andrea Burns, you know? So it was a person, it was connected to a person, and it's very hard to make that happen the way it happened in Norway. But that is so important to Norway's program.
Yeah, and I just want to second that yes, I think it's unfortunate, but the reality is that it's often tied, the success is often tied to a person who started it. I mean, because certainly there was not a preservation ethic in downtown Norway when I moved there in 2003. It was, you know, it wasn't at all. In fact, people were very resistant to the idea of historic preservation. But Andrea would not let it go. And then we've managed to prove through our success that it is actually a good and viable strategy by not ever giving up. But it is not it's not just a given sort of thing. But yeah, our community has always had that. It certainly hasn't.
And Anne, you know, of course, the biggest project to be done was Norway Opera House. That was sort of like the glaring problem in the middle of town, and literally businesses had to move out because it was leaking. So, you know, that really helped. And once you get a project like that, that tends to turn a town around. I mean, before they're thinking, why do we want to save these old buildings? And suddenly they say, oh my goodness, so the potential for our solution. But there's another issue that relates to Andrea and Scott, and that's leadership. And the difficulty of a volunteer entity is exactly that. And, you know, there's not a there as much as when you have a staff person. And a lot of I know some of the affiliates have part-time staff, but, and when you don't, you're also in that bind of the person who's a great leader suddenly has a problem at home, or leadership changes, or they move on to the next project, and then you have this vacuum. So it's much harder to maintain a kind of consistency when you're in the volunteer world than it is when you have you know, a designated person who is the point person who's getting paid also to do that.
Jim, I didn't know if you wanted to say something because you were off mute and on camera with a beautiful chart behind you.
Thanks, Anne. I just wanted to amplify a point that you made and Jane's point. I think that for us to gain an understanding of our degree of success or failure with the affiliate program, it's helpful to understand from the affiliate's point of view what their motivation is for being an affiliate to begin with. And I think if we can maybe focus on learning what it is that draws an affiliate, you know, to be in that capacity, it could be helpful in putting together a plan that speaks to that.
That's a good point. And it supports what Scott was saying about them setting their goals, right? and their expectations. That's a good point, Jim. Thank you. Anybody else? Ken?
Yes, hi. I think Scott was absolutely correct when he talked about having 15 networks. I remember back in the days when after Steve Levesque proposed this idea of having a network program, and Roxanne pursued it vigorously as part, I think, of her strategy to show broad support in the legislature for state level support for Maine Downtown Center. With 15 network members, affiliate members, you could show that we're working here and here and here and there, and suggest that that's why a legislator from Aroostook would vote yes for a program that was in Augusta or Waterville, for example. And I still think that has a lot of validity, showing distribution. I'm not, yeah, okay. The other piece is that I think one of the challenges we've had is demonstrating to affiliate committees, communities, what it is, turn on my desk light so I can see my notes, what it is that a successful program produces. It's part of the goal setting piece. If you say, what do you want to accomplish? Here's a time frame for that. And that is one definition of success in your particular community. But also, as you mentioned yourself, Annie, that you had a slideshow that talked about successful programs in other affiliate communities designed essentially to model what new communities or other communities might do. And I think that's important. I think that also having something like that also speaks to some degree to the point that Greg made about the churn that a volunteer group has a bunch of movers and shakers, as in Norway, and then those people move on or move away or whatever, and the momentum dips and then it may rise again. And I think we all understand that would happen, but I don't know that we talk with affiliates about how to deal with something like that, the sort of the ebb and flow of interest and support in the community for projects. And that again speaks to having a goal, having a definition of what success is, so that the affiliate program can market those goals and their success in reaching them in terms of building and maintaining and regenerating support in their communities. But lastly, I've been on the advisory committee in one capacity or another since I started at KVCOG, I think in 2001, which is what, 19 years ago. And after a couple of years when Steve Levesque put this idea forward and we agreed all to do it, we've had this conversation, I hesitate to use the word, but I will, ad nauseum, because we've never sort of cracked the nut on this. And while I might talk about churn in the network communities, there's also churn in the way the Downtown Center Advisory Council and the Downtown Center think about this problem. And in some ways, so many of the things we've talked about today about what to do are things we've talked about in the past. And it's kind of Sisyphusian in the sense that we're trying to resolve this problem, and we push the boulder up the hill a bit and then it rolls back and so on and so forth. So it might make sense at some point to look at Pat's report and then say, okay, there are a bunch of things that we can do here, and how many of them are things we've not done before, and what's the likelihood of success if we try something new? In the context perhaps of a cost-benefit analysis, does it still make sense to have an affiliate program? Is it still necessary to show that there's a program here in Aroostook and Washington and so on in order to garner support from legislators or grantors? Is it worth the effort we put into it, given what we get out of it? We can show certainly that some affiliates have gone on to be Main Street programs, but they're not legion by any means. And it's sort of a kind of a come to Jesus moment. Does this really make sense anymore? We know what it costs us, but are we getting much in terms of return? And if we're not, should we invest that momentum, those resources in programs that are successful, i.e. essentially the Main Street program? Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Great thoughts. So glad I'm taping this. Anyone else want to comment on this body of work? I feel like I'm hearing a lot of things that are important to think about and are going to guide the next steps here to hopefully move the needle, at least on our own understanding of the program and the community's understandings.
And I can, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bill.
It was yellow, I think.
Oh, yellow.
If Bill was going, I'll defer to Bill for sure.
I think I think you have the floor, Yellow.
You know, I was sharing a thought with Ann, which is just to be very sensitive to the timing that we're in, even though this has been a perennial issue for MDC and for this group, that right now we're under the most economic and social and psychic distress that we've probably ever been in modern history. And so as we approach setting expectations and enforcing them, I think it's important to be compassionate and supportive over this next 12 months more than at any time ever. And so as the group and Ann builds towards the vision of where you're trying to nudge communities to be and how to help them be accountable to themselves as well as to us, I think it's just really important to not do anything over this next year that is going to harden expectations or come across as punitive in an environment that is the most stressed ever in modern history. So something we might have done in 2019 or 2022 may just be very different in terms of why are people not able to do even the things they aspire to do. It's not necessarily because the spirit is weak. So I think that's all the other stuff. I agree with a lot of it. I think the issue about inclusion and representation, and I would just say, I've never viewed affiliate status as being the driver of whether we can claim someone as a customer or beneficiary of the work of the MDC. So those are two separate things. Someone who is an affiliate who never partakes in the value added isn't really much of a beneficiary. And someone who shows up to 4 programs a year and has never even thought about being an affiliate is, conversely, a great beneficiary and customer of this work. So I think as long as we have a map that can show that we're serving a diverse set of customers, whether someone's an affiliate today or has been one 2 out of the last 5 years, I think showing that reach is not binary with the question of whether someone's an affiliate. So I think that's important to not just take them off the map, because some of them just go off the map literally because the town didn't appropriate the dues that year, not because the grassroots vision or desire changed. So I think a lot of the other stuff you guys are saying makes sense to me. But at the end of the day, we're a clearinghouse. I don't think the success of the network depends on them graduating to the pro league necessarily. I think some will, but it'll be a minority. I think it's really, is there a way of honoring a group and serving a group deeper that has shown an ongoing and real commitment to these best practice principles? And in some ways, whether they pay $500 a year or whatever is almost secondary to their commitment to the principles. And the affiliate status is sort of a way to recognize and honor that. So I think there's a lot can be done regardless of designation. And if the group decides to persist in a designation over the coming years, that's fine and great. Try to figure out a way to make sure the commitment is real instead of just nominal.
And I mean, Yellow, we always say we are the statewide coordinating program for the Main Street, but we are the statewide resource for downtown revitalization, touching all those people. So
yeah, the statute says that we're a clearinghouse for best practice in downtown revitalization. And in a way, affiliates are subscribing to that clearinghouse, at a slightly greater level of intentionality than some others. But the Main Street model is our flagship. It's, the best compendium of best practices that this group has ever been able to come up with and still is. But there may be people out there who never heard of the National Main Street model that are still using some of its core tenets without even knowing it. and sort of that substance over form issue.
Okay, thank you so much. So, yes, Bill,
Well,
you're on mute.
I have.
Yes, he is. Bill, unmute.
We're hearing him.
That's because my computer's close by, right?
Oh.
I have oodles and oodles of thoughts about this, and much frustration, but I hear yellow. But you've got 4 people who are interested in becoming affiliates or knowing about the program. What are you going to do with them under this cloud? That what might be the place to start.
Well, I agree. It's certainly the place to start if they keep going through the current process. And the current process is that, you know, I've met with a small group. I just did a big public meeting in Sanford, of all places, last week. They had 45 people attend. And then, you know, they're inviting me for another meeting. So then I would give them the application and then they would apply for a year from now. So the process is still the way the process is, but I agree if they were to come in, so much of what's been said today and is just really important in our communication and our framing up of the program, the local community's goals, all of that. So I see lots of work, and I'm not feeling it looks too much of a cloud unless you feel it's disingenuous to keep working through those communities that are in the middle of our current process.
Well, the biggie is what are your resources and how far can you stretch them? What have you got for services that you're going to be able to provide as you start adding people?
Right. Well, I think that we're not, I think we're, first of all, I don't think all 4 communities would ever apply. I'd be shocked if that would happen. I hear what you're saying, Bill, and that is part of the conversation without a doubt, is looking at our capacity versus our ability to serve in a meaningful way. So we do have to evaluate that, but I'm actually not fearful of that right now. But it's a fair point.
Who are the 4?
Let's see. Sanford, Monson, Mars Hill, and I'm forgetting one more, Zach. I have to go back to my calendar. Sorry.
No worries, that's fine. Thanks.
And you know, while thinking about the existing ones, you know, this maybe is a good time to say, look, we're all reorganizing. How can we help you this year? You know, because it, you know, everybody's got a story.
Yep.
And I realize that I'm not suggesting that you know, have to immediately do this to, you know, all 12 or 15, but so much as to sort of bear that in mind when you're touching base with them. Because how you help them now is a lot different than how you might have helped them last year, as Yellow was pointing out.
That's true, and that's a great way to frame it up, Greg. Zach, the 4th one is Morrill's Corner, which is another neighborhood in Portland. So I'm going to shift our agenda items. I think.
I just want to thank everybody for your input. It was very helpful to me to listen to this.
Me too.
I do get impatient, so it was very good to have us all delve into it. And I guess the other thought I wondered about, is there a role that Nat can play in this that might help us while he's with you all? So that's all. Thank you.
Well, we were talking earlier today also, you know, about Adam and Joanna and like how our team can all kind of figure out where this body of work lives after we frame it out. So more to come on that, and we'll let you know. But I agree, that was really helpful to me. So, and Yellow, I know you were just bopping in, so no pressure to hang out with us.
Thank you. No, I know this has been a big matter of attention and ongoing frustration for some, and how to make something of it. So I wanted to get a flavor for where everyone was coming at it. So as Anne bounces it off me down the road, I can be better equipped. And I would just circle back to the observation about leadership development and say that's a big topic of conversation inside MDF. We've been forced to change our whole approach, obviously, without being able to do in-person leadership development. So we've just been thinking a lot more about it in general. And that's raised a whole conversation in Rosie's team for both the downtown cohorts of communities and the forest economy cohorts of communities. Our goal is to launch a much more formal, customized program for those sets of community leaders next spring, not just to scholarship them through some of our more general offerings. So back to the point about resources, I mean, we've been blessed to have a redoubling of investment by DECD into the downtown center over the last couple of years, thanks to Terry Ann and Deb Johnson's belief in this program. So, and we've been lucky to have investments from Bill and from partners like Machias and Versant and others. So we're, you know, you're never swimming in resources as a nonprofit, but we have resources to conceive and think about how to do some things that we would never have dared dream to think about in 2016. So that's a good place to be in.
Thanks, Yellow, so much.
Can I make one last comment?
Yes, Terry Ann.
Building on what everyone is saying, and just for edification, the first three communities that you mentioned are all receiving or in process of getting block grants for various things. Monson, Mars Hill for water, and Sanford for some more downtown revitalization work. So when we look at the affiliates, I think it's important to look at that aspect of leadership, and is there somebody who is there, who is able to kind of keep the ship afloat, if you will, just to make sure that they have strong leadership, and that I guess pretty much like Scott Berg said, you have usually there's one person that is the go-to person, that is the leader, that inspires the others to follow along. And I think we need to look carefully at our group of affiliates and see what they have, who they have, and how strong they are. And those who have some good leadership, who are ready and willing to keep committing to our activities, I think that's really where the bulk of our energy needs to go. Not that we discount anybody else, but if we are looking to stretch our resources, I think those who are really have potential and good leadership skills and are committed, we need to focus on supporting them as best we can.
That's great. Thank you, Terry Ann. Just like a really great statement to think about. I'm starting to get clarity, people. Okay. So I would like to just shift to two other more like updates, I guess mostly from me, but first of all, Julie Richards from the Maine Arts Commission has accepted a position in Sedona, Arizona, and she is leaving in like 2 weeks. So she said to pass on her thanks and appreciation to all of you. She could not make today's meeting. So we will take a look at our guidelines. They're not bylaws, but we'll take a look at our guidelines and see whether the Maine Arts Commission is a standing state agency or they are one of the mix in our guidelines that says you should have representation. So we may want to think about that. Which brings me to my next point, which is I need a short-term nominating committee. And I would love for 3 volunteers who are willing to just do some work on filling some slots. One will be obviously some sort of cultural position. And I need to do the numbers and see if we have a couple other openings, which I think we do. So if anybody is able, either raise your hand or put your name in the chat. It's a short ask. I would say it would go from whenever we start, whether that's December or January, and it would be done by first quarter is my goal. So it's just a first quarter commitment. And it's very exciting work. So think about that. Because, you know, I'll pick up the phone and call if I need to. Let's see. Annual Main Street virtual assessments will be taking place. These are typically in-person 2-hour meetings with our Main Street director and some leadership from the board or a local business or municipal employee, going through our 10 accreditation standards. And they typically take place during January and February. I think almost everybody here has done at least one of these assessment visits. And we're going to be doing them again. I haven't gotten the frame up of the schedule out, but we will be scheduling them via Zoom. And I hope that you all will consider participating in 1 or 2 communities. Ideally, we like to have 1 director, and we like to have, so that there's a peer reviewer, and then we have 2 advisory council members. And if an advisory council member can't make it, then often MDF staff will chime in. So I'll get that schedule out to you all, and I hope you will consider participating. It's invaluable work that you do. That's coming. National Main Street Center has given us the draft of new accreditation standards. They have not shared them with the local programs yet. They're still in the works. The big twister for me is they're talking about accrediting the community, not the Main Street organization. So I'm really struggling, like, oh, so the community of Belfast is an accredited community. And so some people are pushing back on that, you know, especially considering municipalities that are like, you have a hard time having them support your organization. So how can we accredit anyway? So it seems like we're having a lot of meetings with the coordinating program directors about this.
Yeah, this
yes.
is.
Hi, Megan.
That kind of goes hand in hand with the certified local government program.
Oh, yeah. Tell
It's
me.
the commission that gets certified. It's the municipality that gets certified.
Oh.
And so in a lot of states, when I was on my certified local government coordinator, a lot of states have their Main Street programs go hand in hand with their CLG programs, where you can't be a CLG unless you have a Main Street, or, you know, vice versa. You can't be a Main Street without being a CLG.
Okay.
So that might be somewhere they're getting it from national. I don't know.
I mean, there are Main Street programs that are part of economic development offices. You know, they aren't 501c3s. In Maine, we have 9. Well, all of them are 501c3s. One's membership based. But yeah, I hear you. You might be right.
So that's what just comes to mind when you mentioned the municipality instead of the program itself.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, more to come on that. I was hoping that the draft standards we could use this January and February to just use it as a draft year. Why not? And not, you know, it's not a punitive situation for the local Main Street, but it would be kind of cool to go through the process with the new accreditation standards and then be like, hey, national, this is crazy. You know, like one of the things on the list right now says that all board members must attend 80% of their board of directors meetings, and the coordinators are like, they're not going to be able to, a lot of them can't track that level of detail. I mean, I'm sure Zach and Christina, you guys take attendance, but then to have you go back and say like, well, who missed one and who didn't?
It'd be a lot easier than how many people live in our downtown. Twice
Your favorite question, right? So anyway, more to come on the accreditation standards on that. So those are my 2 other updates, needing a nominating committee and our annual assessment schedule, which I'll send out to you all. And I'd like to just briefly see if anybody has any questions, and then turn it back to Adam, who wasn't able to come right away, just to give a higher level little update on the AmeriCorps program. And Adam, we did meet Nat, and Nat told everybody why he has joined us and what he's working on. But I thought it would be great. Let me just see if I see any hands raised or people that want to say anything before I turn it over to you. Great. And we also told them that the AmeriCorps fellows, the Main Street fellows, are going to be involved in our meeting, our event in January at some point. But I would love to hear from you, or have you share just how you think the whole program is going, how people are settling in, any nuggets for everybody.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Just as a baseline, we have 5 fellows who are in Biddeford, Gardner, at the main downtown center, Rockland, and Skowhegan. The reports all around are that the fellows are engaged and they're adding value already, and that they're a good fit between the particular service they're doing, as well as, I guess, more personality-wise between directors and fellows and that sort of thing. The addition of the capacity was immediately felt and noted, particularly by Gardner and Rockland, and here at the main downtown center. And yeah, folks seem engaged. The level of ownership already, their ability to speak about the programming as a whole, not just what their slice of it is really remarkable. They're an inspiring group of people, fun to work with, and I enjoy it thoroughly. From a personal reflection point of view, as I've been doing programming, I ask for people's feedback, and I use a system called a Net Promoter Score, which asks people for a numeric score and then a qualitative answer of why they chose that score. And so far, 100% of people would recommend anything that we've done related to the fellows to others. So that's a good place to be. And a remark from one of the host site supervisors the other day was that the customer service that they're receiving from the main downtown center on this program is very good and appreciated. So I feel good about it all, and most of all, I'm just excited for all the good things that are already underway and about to happen between the Main Streets and their fellows, and us and our fellow Nat.
Any questions for Adam? It's a big lift for Adam, and I will say it's just kind of amazing that the level of some bureaucratic or just logistics. I mean, it's just all really intense, and I think the 5 fellows are gonna, be like our family for 1,700 hours, and you will be seeing them in and out of hopefully our work and also their individual work. It is really exciting. And I'm glad to hear, Adam, that Rockland and Gardner particularly felt that increase in capacity. That's amazing and really good to hear, because that's what we know those 2 Main Street programs, more than any of the others, really do need. They are single staff people in both of those offices right now. And I know Christina has been single staff people, but not forever. And Zach, you still have a part-time somebody with you? No, okay. So anyway, I'm glad to hear that. Any questions? Okay, great. So I like to end on time. I also like to let you go early, but I do not want to be remiss if anybody has any particular announcement or piece of information they would like to share with the group before we leave in 7 minutes.
And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about, just how the Main Street communities are doing. That's one thing, other than talking about affiliates, we really did not talk about, status. And I have not been attending your Friday sessions, which I think are great to have, but.
Oh, well, there's only so many Zooms you can do. So how do I think they're doing? I'm like, oh, do I turn to Christina and Zach? Zach, would you like to give an update on how Belfast is doing for Greg, and madly reflect on the whole group?
How we're doing in terms of just in general? Life. Yeah, I think we're really fortunate. I think there's been a lot of investment in the Main Street program here in Belfast. We're really fortunate to have had a new city manager start in March. And there's a very strong, I think stronger than ever, relationship with the city. We've been able to get a lot done in support of downtown and our businesses downtown, so much so that it's almost, it's very noticeable, not in the downtown, and it's caused some resentment, which has created some issues. but in terms of the organization, I think we're very strong, and I feel like here for the last 10 years, the groundwork has been laid for, unfortunately, a pandemic, but that's kind of what it took, I think, for the efforts to really be appreciated. I think businesses here have fared fairly well, considering our restaurants are really hard hit, and any form of federal stimulus, I think, is going to be very critical. I was talking to a city councilor this morning who said, we discussed how much easier it will be to retain a business than try and find however many new businesses if they should close or move on. We're very fortunate to have been designated as Opportunity Zone back in when the LePage administration made the designation. We've been doing some work with the EPA. They've hired a consultant to work with us around Opportunity Zone work. So we've been doing some work with property owners. So there's some discussion of possible investment being made here. So I feel like overall, I think we're doing fairly well, all things considered. And I think consider ourselves to be very fortunate from a financial perspective. A lot of our supporters have continued to support us. And I think that the outlook for 2021 is not great. I mean, we're not planning on any of our fundraising events, but from a financial perspective, we'll be viable through, if everything continues through 2021. So when I talk to some of our colleagues in other communities, I don't know that that's necessarily the same case. So consider myself to be very fortunate, and I think the community is in good shape, all things considered.
And Zach was invited to present at one of the National Main Street Center's webinars about fundraising, right, Zach?
Yeah, it was Washington, Oregon, Colorado, and one other.
And Maine.
So it was those coordinating programs pulled together this training for their.
Oh, okay. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I believe, Zach, you also did receive the Economic Recovery Grant money from DECD, along with 4 other main streets, Greg, that received that economic recovery money. 3 did not receive it, and 2 did not apply just because their numbers didn't meet the criteria because of the size of their PPP awards. One nugget from Gardner, they had 18 vacancies in like April and May, and now they're down to like 5 vacancies. But what we're realizing in Gardner is that the low cost of rent and the kind of lack of need for a business plan, like we've talked a little bit about this in our entrepreneur world, right? It's a low barrier to go into a site in Gardner to open a business, whether you kind of have a plan or have financial backing or not. And so we're finding that, yes, it's the pandemic and they had 18 vacancies and there were closures because of the pandemic, but we're also finding in Gardner, it's just that it's a place where you don't have a long-term plan. It's a place where you can start and fail and it's not the end of the world, which is it's just kind of something I've been chewing on since I've talked to Melissa about this.
It happens here too. It's not.
It does? Okay.
Oh yeah. There's spaces that turn over. There's property owners that don't require a business plan.
Yeah.
And they turn over all the time. And they don't really understand why. And tell them this is why. After Christina goes, I wonder if, have you heard anything on the National Main Streets federal legislation? I reached out to Kelly yesterday. I asked her for an update.
Yeah.
I didn't hear back from her.
They just told us last week that they're highly unlikely it's going to go through right now.
Yeah.
But yet they seem to be waiting to see what the election results for the Senate, right? What happens in Georgia and what the count is for who's going to be controlling the Senate. And so they're kind of gearing us up for like hardcore advocacy, possibly in first quarter, possibly after inauguration, but they're It's all pretty fuzzy. That's what I got for an update.
Yep.
Christina, you want to give a quick update and then we will wrap up. And Greg, I will do a more formal update of our Main Street program because that was a great question. You're right. I get caught in the details.
We are also doing fine. We did lay off our 2 support staff members in late May, once we realized the pandemic wasn't going anywhere and that all of our events this year would likely need to be canceled. We received a PPP forgivable loan of 20-something thousand, and then we were lucky and received 55,000, or we should be getting our check from the Economic Recovery Grant Program here, I think next week. So luckily our town, we received the increased request in funding that we asked for from the municipality, and in the amount of $60,000 as well. So we're doing pretty good from a financial perspective since we're now only at 1 employee. And actually our budget for the coming year, the board just voted on Monday night, and we have conservatively budgeted for 2021 with no event income at all and no expenses, obviously. And the organization is going to do just fine. We've also budgeted for some contractual help in case if we do host events, which hopefully we will, we'll be paying a contractor to come in and help with that. We've also contractually hired a marketing social media person, one of our previous employees who has pretty significant knowledge of the organization. So she's helping me with emails and social media, and she'll be doing that through the coming year. And we are actually going to be contracting another employee to help run our Skowhegan AmeriCorps outdoor recreation program, which is a pretty big time suck on my end. So she will be working full-time basically January through August. So things are looking up on our end. We were pleased at the board meeting the other night, just from an outlook perspective for the coming year. And it's a little bit more of a weight on my shoulders right now, but we've also not had to host any of our events really. So I've been able to focus on some of our bigger picture projects that we've got going on here. And by hiring contracted employees for the coming year, that will also help take some of the weight off my shoulders. So that's where we're at.
Thank you very much.
Congrats to both groups. That's really amazing. To have a positive report. So kudos.
Yeah, and I would say not everybody's as secure as these 2 are or have made as good an adjustment, right, in the time. So it's a great question, Greg, like I said, and I would like to reflect on all of the main streets. We did do a deep dive affiliate update with the executive committee where we went through each community, which was useful. So perhaps we will do something similar. Okay, so 2:32, I'm late, people, but thank you. Thank you for attending. Email me if you need anything. If you'd like to be on the nominating committee, I'd love to have you. It's a short lift. And thanks for everybody's input on the affiliate program. It was really helpful. I wasn't sure we were going to get anywhere, but I feel like hopefully. So thank you all. And we'll see you soon.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah, right. Happy Thanksgiving.
Nice to be in a big room with people.